5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our panelists for being here today. My district is in upstate New York, so if you'll indulge me for my 5 minutes, I'd like to talk about the state of New York, and in particular because it is one of those 44 states that Mr. Chairman spoke of in his opening remarks. Dr. Biggs, I'd like to just direct my question to you and to Mr. Kurter, and then if anyone else would like to comment on it. In 1975, New York City found itself in a crisis and had to make a decision between paying its debt or paying its employees. And as you know, they paid their debt down. My question is, do you foresee New York State facing such a choice within the next 5 years? And if you could comment on how dire you believe the situation is in New York at the present time.
Well, I know a little bit about New York State. My father's from upstate New York near Schenectady, so I spend a bit of time up there. I would not claim to be an expert on New York State finances. Certainly, in the recent history has not been encouraging there. New York State's pensions have been better funded than in many states of the country, but that, when you use honest accounting, that's being the top of a very bad heap. But still, the other costs the state government has to deal with are pretty significant. I have not followed closely enough the efforts of Governor Cuomo there to try to rein in some of the costs and to bring balance to the budget. If those are successful, certainly New York will be in better shape. I think because of New York's reliance on tax revenue from Wall Street, which is highly cyclical, they have a risk factor there that some other states may not have. So certainly I'm hopeful. I'm more hopeful now than I was 6 months ago, but New York State has a long way to go.
Thank you. Mr. Kurter.
Yes. Our ratings really speak to whether or not we expect the state to make good on its bond payments in full and on time. That said, of course, the state has had very difficult problems, as all states are facing tremendous problems of managing their revenue and spending. Our view is that the states have revenue and spending problems, but not really debt problems, because even in New York, their debt service is a relatively small portion of their overall spending. Right now, of course, because revenue is short, payments to the retirement system and all other expenses are competing with each other for scarce dollars, and the state is having to make difficult choices about balancing their budget within the constraints of weaker revenue.
Thank you,
just quickly add to that, again, just to remind the committee that first and foremost, the state of the economy will be the most important factor to determining the ability of New York and every other state to meet its obligations.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. Senator?
You know, you asked the question whether or not New York is in a situation where they need to pay their debt or pay their employees. Utah is in that situation right now. As we ramp into 75% increases in our employer contribution for pension systems, that is going to pay for these losses. That's 10% of our general fund that will not be available for wages or health care benefits for our employees. We fund things in this order in our state, and I think most states are similar. We fund pension benefits first, health benefits second, and whatever change is left over goes to wage. And our wages in the state have fallen behind as we've struggled to keep up with pension and health care costs. And so as we looked at this, our reforms, we started calling it maybe euphemistically the Wage Liberation Act, because we said, look, you can't have a set bucket of money and having your benefits eat more and more of that bucket of money. You have no money left for wage. So we've struggled to get the 24-year-old, at the start of his career, because he or she is looking for wage, and benefits are less important, and we struggle to recruit as a state. We think by affirmatively saying, and generous, our legislation says you get 10% towards retirement, 10% of your wage. If you're public safety or fire, you get 12%. And so it's a generous amount, but it's set, and that's all we're doing. So hopefully over time, we can repair wages for our employees, which by our data in the state of Utah, their actual wage is lower because we are making this choice: do you pay this debt or do you pay the employees? And we're struggling with that right now as a state.
Thank you. I yield back my time.